Humans have been using their voices from the beginning of time, right? It's part of how we pray. It's part of how we release the intensity of being alive. It's part of how we know we're alive. Humans at the beginning of time were doing what? Rituals, times and places to come together as community and or woo or whatever, right? Just feel it all. Let it move out of our bodies. Because guess what? We are ridiculously sensitive. Human beings are like walking antennas. Yes? Especially humans who do this practice. We are constantly picking up information. And everything that impacts us, we're hardwired to express. Something horrible happens. Something really great happens. Woo! Right? We're not made to or hardwired to sit at our computers and read about horrible things over and over again and hold on to it, right? But that's where we've gotten to. In most places, in many places in the world, I've been to places where the first thing that happens is people come out. Hey, hey, yeah! And there's a party, right? There's a jam. And no one's like, oh, I really can't sing. But somehow we got to this place where we've civilized ourselves away from self-expression, and it's making us sick. Why is it making us sick? Stuck, right. So if we're walking around as antennas and we're constantly being impacted by the world around us, and we just get impacted and we're just going to hold on to that, and then something really hard happens and we hold on to that, and then something else happens and we hold on to that, it starts getting compacted into our energetic system. You know what I'm saying? And in the realm of trauma healing, there's this wonderful thing called the freeze response, right? So when something really intense happens to us, we have the capacity sometimes to fight off that trauma or get ourselves to safety, right? The adrenaline, the cortisol, runs through our system. We have the energy to get ourselves out of that difficult situation, you might say. Or also maybe we have the capacity, the energetic capacity to run from that situation. But if we can't do either, what happens is our body goes into a freeze response. Freeze response is like having one foot on the accelerator and one foot on the brake, right? There's nowhere to go, but you still got that full energization that happened, right? It takes 9 minutes for the cortisol to leave the body, right? So we're walking around with this cocktail of intense hormones, right? And our bodies are kind of holding on to things. So a lot of people in the world are walking around in a slight or a intense freeze response, shielding ourselves against that thing that might come next that's going to hurt us, right? Now, the reason sound is so powerful in healing that, right? Because over time, those kind of contractions and holdings can become stuck energy, and that stuck energy can become dis-ease, right? We know that from doing yoga practices. We're bringing our attention, awareness, and breath right into the stuck places in the body, and we're giving it space, we're giving it breath so that the block can move. But here's what's interesting about sound. Sound is a physical thing. Sound moves matter. And this is what ancient cultures knew, right? Here's how it works. Sound is a physical vibration, and everything in the world is made up of vibrations, right? If we go into the subatomic level, we have the nucleus in the center of the atom, and then there's the electrons that are way out here, and then there's like empty space in between. But basically, we are energetic matter moving through time and space as waves. I'm sure you've seen this, right? Every single thing that's alive and living is vibrating at its own frequency or rate of vibration. The grass is vibrating. The light of the sun is vibrating. The earth itself is vibrating. We are a multitude of vibrational fields in ourselves, right? But here's how sound and singing works. I take air into my lungs. As the air passes back through the trachea, it goes through the vocal cords. The first job of the vocal cords is air pressurization. Second job of the vocal cords is sound. So I take air in, and as that air is passing back through my vocal cords, it is getting shaped into a sound wave. That sound wave is going out into the world and impacting every single solid object, it's just basically a vibrating object, that it meets. Who do you think's name? I'm going to make two sounds. Here, the first one's kind of intense, but just notice how your body feels. Nice, huh? Now make a different sound now. It was the same sound. It was the same note, and it was the same volume. And the only difference in the sound was how I created it. But it had a difference, right? It had a different experience of the impact of that sound, yes? Okay, so the vocal cord. So let's say I wanted to sing C, the note C. That sound wave is a hertz, a vibration per second of 256, right? 256 hertz. That means my vocal cords are opening and closing 256 times a second to make that sound. What? So the vocal cords are amazing. They're these little strips of cartilage that go right into the throat. There's this thin tissue on the inside of the vocal cords that's made from the same part of the embryo as the genitals. I'm going to say that again. There's a little piece of tissue on the inside of the vocal cords that is made from the same part of the embryo as the genitals, which makes it sensitive. Which makes it sensitive. Right, exactly. Which means we want to be kind and gentle to our vocal cords, which means there's an incredible connection between our self-expression, what happens in our throat, and what happens in our second chakra, we'll say. Sexuality, sensuality. Cranial sacral is based on the idea that what happens in the cranium happens in the sacrum. What happens in the sacrum happens in the cranium. They are interconnected. They're both folds in a way, right? So A above C, A440, musicians might have heard this. 440 vibrations per second or hertz. So here's the interesting thing. When our brains are in this kind of paying attention field, like we're in right now, we're in beta brainwaves. Beta brainwaves are 12 to 30 hertz, just to give you some information for that, right? So it's the middle C, 256, beta brainwaves, 12 to 30. If we go into a relaxed state or a creative state, we might get into alpha brainwaves. Alpha brainwaves are 8 to 12 hertz. If we go into a deep meditation, we might get into theta brainwaves. We heard of that, theta brainwave healing. When we are in theta brainwaves, we're at 4 to 8 hertz. Everything beneath that, 0.0124 to 4 hertz. And you might notice that the numbers are going down, right? And there's this beautiful yogic saying, yoga is the stilling of the fluctuations of the mind. So as we still the fluctuations of the mind, we go into deeper states of consciousness. Other things happen when we sing. Other things happen when we sing. We're starting to now be able to measure what happens to our bodies when we sing. We get this whole wonderful release of dopamine. We get a release of oxytocin. We get a release of what's called anandamide. Anandamide, they named one of the peptides, the brain peptides, after bliss. So the bliss peptide comes in when we sing. Our whole bodies respond vibrationally to the sound that we're making. So it's one thing to receive sound from the outside of the body. It's a whole other thing to create the sound and allow our bodies to respond and open to the sound. So I want to go back to the beginning for just a minute. Early cultures, especially yoga cultures, but many cultures understood the power of sound. They already knew this, right? The ancient Egyptians said, thoughts sang the world into being. The ancient Aboriginal Australians said, their ancestor beings sang and continue to sing the world into being. That goes through many, many cultures. The yogi said, in the beginning was the great void, and into the void came the first vibration, which gave birth to all the other vibrations. What do you think that was? The which is called the pranava, or that which is without attribute or deity. Interestingly enough, the Om has 4 parts: the A, the U, the M, and the silence that hold the sound. And each one of those corresponds to a state of consciousness. Guess what? They correspond to our measured brainwaves, right? We had A, Jagnat, corresponding to beta brainwaves. We have U, Sakna, corresponding to alpha brainwaves. We have M, Shushukti, corresponding to theta brainwaves. And we have Turiya, eternal consciousness, corresponding to our delta. So they already knew when we say that sound, we're saying all the sounds. We're bringing ourselves, we're invoking, we're calling in with our voice, invoking all of the consciousnesses that we could have. So ancient cultures were very hip to this. And again, they had times and places, lots of rituals where people could come together and just release. And in that release, come to states of self-regulation and co-regulation, right? Fast forward to now, we're now being able to use sound again, but we now have these very sophisticated measuring instruments that allow us to see the impact of sound on our bodies. Anyone done an ayahuasca ceremony, you know that the ayahuasqueros, part of what they're doing is reading your energy frequency, right? Your field of energy, and noticing where is it stuck? Where does it need to be ignited or shifted? Where does it need to be releasing? And they bring in particular songs, very particular songs, ikaros, sacred songs, to move the energy of your body, right? That is the priestessing. In ancient Rome and Greece, you would go to the healing temple of Asclepius, and the healers would lay you down on a table and sing particular frequencies into your body. So we now know that sound can help bones knit back together. Sound can help organs healing. We're using sound to clean our teeth. Into the dentist lately. So anytime anyone's like, well, is sound healing really a thing? I say, well, it moves plaque. It moves plaque. Sound moves plaque off of our teeth. It can also move plaque from pre-amyloid. We can remove pre-amyloid plaque in the brain now. We can pinpoint a tumor in the body, bring a frequency that matches the frequency of that tumor into the body, and blow up the tumor without invasive surgery. We're starting to use sound in surgical fields more and more and more and more and more as recovery from surgery. It's science. And part of the reason I'm telling you this is because it's good for our neocortex to have something to hold on to, because we're about to go into some full expression, right? We want our brains to understand singing is profoundly healing for our bodies, and it's profoundly healing for our brains, and it allows us to regulate together or co-regulate it. Why is that? Because of something called resonance. Anyone heard of resonance? What is it?
It's when you start to vibrate at the same frequency as you match.
Yes. So two matching frequencies, so I say you have two sound waves, right? They could be at odds with each other, or they could sync up. And when the two vibrations or sound waves sync up, there's amplification of the field, right? Like when the opera singer sings the note that matches the wine glass, what happens? Right? It's a terrible metaphor. But it's illustrative of when we get that sense of resonance in our bodies, the difference between the harsh sound and the beautiful sound. I'm going to show you how to do that. How to allow your body to be a resonance field for sound. And if you do that, you gain the medicine of your own voice. You're not trying to get it out of your body. You're holding it in, getting all the health benefits of your sound.